Okay, excellent. I think I've got it all set. Welcome. I am Helen Graves, instructional designer with CVC and @ONE. That stands for California Virtual Campus. And @ONE is the online network of educators, which is our professional development group. Today, I want to introduce you to the practical ins and outs of creating effective instructional videos for your courses, because it's one thing to include video, but if you want students to actually watch and learn from your videos, you got to make sure they're well done. For many of us, our college education was largely spent sitting in lecture halls and classrooms, listening to professors talk and talk and talk. Even if that works in face-to-face situations, and research is showing that lecture-based teaching is not especially effective, it's definitely not going to work very well in the asynchronous world of online learning. When done well, video is a great strategy to add to your teaching bag of tricks, but it's just part of it. And let's first talk about why you would want to use videos. There is no doubt it's beneficial to put in a little FaceTime in the asynchronous online class. The use of video and audio brings you into the course. It adds that human aspect that many often say is missing in an online learning environment. Video can definitely create a stronger sense of connection and a more nuanced and robust level of communication than just text on a page can. Being able to see and hear you promotes instructor presence, which has been positively linked to increased retention, motivation, and learning in online courses. Additionally, in accordance with UDL, which is Universal Design for Learning principles, providing content in multimodal formats supports learning differences. So sure, you've got your textbook, but why not also create a short, pithy set of video lectures to provide the content in a visual and auditory format for students who may be challenged by text or just prefer to watch than read? When to use video? Well, you can greet them with a short, "Hi, I'm glad you're here," welcome video when your course opens. You can add a short intro video to your module overview pages, introducing the topic, maybe giving them the context for the learning activities you've selected for that module. You can provide screencast instructions for how to access materials, or the use of an app or a program, or how to navigate to and through the course shell that may be helpful for students. Do you ever get the same question over and over again? Notice a common mistake in students' work? Well, you can create a quick screencast that provides clarity on the topic, or addresses an error, or reteaches a concept. This may actually be more helpful than a lengthy written set of comments, and can also then be shared with everyone as an announcement, for example. And one other way you can do it is to what are now being called explainer videos, which are typically very short animated videos using tools like Vyond or Powtoons, or that use simple graphics and very straightforward language to explain or illustrate abstract or difficult concepts. A recorded instructional video isn't going to provide the same experience as in-person lesson, where students can ask on-the-spot questions and offer ideas or counter arguments in real time. But if they're done well, instructor-created videos can be a very powerful tool in your toolbox. So what specific tools are you going to need? Well, a webcam, a microphone, good lighting, and some way of recording or editing. That's it. There are a variety of recording tools that are available: Camtasia, Adobe Spark, Canva Studio, ScreencastOMatic, even Zoom. A quick Google search will undoubtedly locate a number of others as well. I like to use ScreencastOMatic because it's pretty simple to use. It's got a good set of basic editing tools. They provide a nice series of tutorials for learning how to use it, and it only costs $20 a year, which in my opinion is quite a deal. Plus, it has an integration with Canvas, So you can actually access your whole library of ScreencastOMatic videos right from the rich content editor on a Canvas page. One thing to be aware of, if you like the idea of that, is the integration uses a single sign-on process. So you have to make sure the login credentials you use to set up your ScreencastOMatic account match your Canvas credentials. Otherwise, Canvas won't recognize the account. It's okay if they don't. It just means you're going to embed the videos manually instead of through the rich content editor integration. Okay, so some tips. You're going to want to do a couple of test recordings to check your sound quality. I'm on a Mac, and I tend to get pretty good results with just the built-in microphone. You don't have to go out and buy a big, expensive anything, but do a test first. You'd want the sound quality to be good. Bad audio can be very distracting for your viewers, but you don't have to go for, recording studio quality sound. I would also recommend being on screen where seeing you is an integral part of the message, like your welcome video. For lectures, it may be fine to just have the visual presentation and your voice. Another idea is to be on screen for the first introductory remarks and then swap over to the what do we call it? Screencast of your desktop for the presentation. If you're going to be on screen, you don't need fancy lighting, but you want to make sure you're not strongly backlit. We've all seen those folks on Zoom who look like they're in witness protection. So you want to make sure there's good, even light coming on your face. The other tool that can be very helpful for video creation is Canva, not to be confused with Canvas. Canva is a graphic design application that makes it super simple to create great images. All of the graphics that I'm using in this presentation, and probably all my presentations, are done in Canva. They provide a very large collection of pre-built templates that you can customize. They've got a library of license-free photos and graphics, so you don't have to worry about copyright issues. And they've also got a great set of tutorials for learning both how to use the tool and basic graphic design. There is a premium version, but the free version is probably great as a starting point. Oh, I don't think I remembered to open this. Do I want to show you that? I think I do. Okay, so give me 1 second to get myself organized. I forgot that I was going to show you a little example video just because often people say, well, what exactly are you talking about? So let's see if I can get there quickly. Okay, so this is just a little example. Let me do my sound. I apologize for not being as set up as I thought I was. Can somebody remind me how I make sure the video sound gets played? Does anybody know Zoom well enough?
Yes, go to, oh, go ahead. View options, share computer sound.
In the main settings?
On Zoom.
Yeah, so before you before you share screen, you can it'll pop up in the window. There'll be an option.
Oh, okay. So let me stop sharing my screen then, and I'll start sharing again, and hopefully that will do it. I apologize.
No problem. And then in that window at the bottom, you'll see a checkbox that says optimize.
Yes, it says share sound. Okay. And optimize for video clip. Oh, you all are so good. Thank you. Okay. So it's just really quick, but I just wanted to show you how simple it can be. Hi, I'm Helen Graves, your instructor with BC 112 Office Organization. I'm delighted to be working with you in the course. I just wanted to give you a quick hello and point out a few things of note as you get started. I really want to be sure you feel supported in your success with this course, so please feel free. So you don't have to watch the whole stinking 2 minutes, but I just wanted to show you, very informal. I started off with them being able to see me and hear me so that you've got that human connection. Humans love looking at faces. We're hardwired for that. But then I went to my desktop because I didn't want to be on screen the whole time. I didn't need to be on screen. I really wanted to show them how to navigate the course. So it was just an example so you could see you don't need to be highly polished, highly professional. You will want to coif your hair and maybe put on a clean shirt, but other than that, you're good to go. Okay, so let me go back now to here. And I want to talk with you. I think my description of this said 5 tips. So I think I put in 5 tips. If not, well, we'll figure it out what the 5th one is. But the first tip I want to share, and possibly the most important, is to keep it short. Several years ago, edX did an incredibly comprehensive study of almost 7 million video viewing sessions. What they found was that almost all students watched the whole thing when the video was under 6 minutes. At that point, however, the engagement time started dropping dramatically. It fell to less than 50% for videos of 9 to 12 minutes, and a dismal 20% viewership for videos that were longer than 12 minutes. Yikes! Now, you may be thinking, but Helen, people watch videos longer than 6 minutes all the time. Yes, we all love to binge watch Netflix, and maybe even some of us love our educational TED Talks and Khan Academy, but, and I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, most of our lectures don't have the compelling storyline of Outlander, and most of us do not have a presentation style as polished and dynamic as Sal Khan or Brene Brown. So that translates to 2 specific strategies. First, you want to chunk your content into segments. Instead of doing one long 45-minute lecture, break it into several separate topics. You can aim for 5 to 7 minutes. Try not to go over 9, because you remember that's when it dropped down to the 50% viewership. Those segments don't have to be standalone, although they might be. The point is to just keep each session within that magic 6-minute window. Second, you want to keep your topics focused. 6 minutes is actually longer than you may think. But if you're the kind of instructor who kind of likes to meander your way to the point you're making, you're going to want to adapt a more get right to it style for these videos. Meandering is not a particularly effective method for asynchronous instruction because you don't have the captive audience the way you do in a lecture hall. Long is not better when it comes to instructional videos. So be focused, be concise. Besides increasing the likelihood of student views, recording in short chunks means it's much easier for you to re-record and update individual topics as needed. It also means it's easier for students to come back and review specific topics when they're studying for an exam or whatever project is coming up. They don't have to try to remember where they heard it. You've got it organized by topic so they can zero right in on what they need. I have had some instructors tell me that they've had students say they feel overwhelmed when they go to a page and they see a bunch of videos on the page. So my suggestion there is, if you get that kind of feedback, or even if you don't, just preempt it by doing some framing around the context for students. Explain that it's actually just one lecture segmented into short bite-sized chunks that's going to make it easier for them to digest the information and easier for them to come back and rewatch when they need to study for or prepare for exams and quizzes. So by giving them a context, they'll realize it's not 5 or 6 45-minute videos, it's 5 or 6 3 to 5 minute videos, which is a whole different ballgame. The only time you should be sitting in front of the camera and lecture for 30 minutes is if you don't really care whether your students are watching or not. Wink, wink. I wouldn't recommend anything longer than 15 minutes. And no matter what the length, but especially over 5 minutes, you want to make sure it's very engaging, which actually leads to the next tip. Keep it engaging and relevant. People don't pay attention to boring things, even if they should. What keeps our attention? When something is visually appealing, when it's interesting, and when it's useful or relevant to us. So a talking head isn't especially visually compelling. We've all experienced that, I'm sure. Someone is just there on screen talking, and our eyes kind of drift shut, or we get distracted or start multitasking. So you want to create a visual presentation that's going to augment your speaking points. It will not only add interest and appeal, When it's done well, it's actually going to reinforce the concepts, which will increase retention and make the entire presentation more effective. One way to increase engagement and relevance is to include a brief introduction, providing context for how this video or this lecture series or whatever it is germane to the student's learning. You can record a very short intro that's customized for each class and then use the same content segments, the main stuff, across multiple classes. It could even be a short video introduction or even a text intro that's right on the Canvas page above the video. And remember how you're going to be doing short segments instead of one long video? Depending on your discipline, you can easily re-record and customize a segment in order to weave in current events that are topical or relevant to your students that term. So that's another way to boost the engagement. Interaction is, again, another way to add relevance and engagement. You could provide guiding questions, either in that little short introduction or sprinkled within the video, that helps students focus on their learning. What was the topic of this micro lecture? In your own words, explain what you learned. What, if anything, are you still confused about? Create a question you think that I, the instructor, might use at the end of this micro lecture and include what you believe to be the correct response. There's all kinds of things you could ask them. I'll tell you, I study a bit about persuasion and neuroscience, and the brain loves to follow directions. So you can actually direct students to write down their answers to the questions as they watch or immediately after. You don't necessarily need to collect it or have them turn it in, but a surprising number are going to do it simply because they were given the direction to write them down. And you could also let them know it will likely improve their scores on their exams and assignments. Another thing you could do is embed knowledge check questions or self-assessments, either in the video, if you have software for that, or at the end by linking to a little Canvas mini quiz. Another idea for making your video content relevant and meaningful is incorporating it as part of a larger sort of homework assignment or project of some kind, rather than just having them be standalone lectures. Understanding how something fits into the whole is very motivational in completing a task. One fun way to create engagement is at the end of the video, end it with a teaser that segues into the next topic. This works really well if you're doing a series of short videos that make up a whole lecture. So for example, you're discussing the colonization of America, and you might say, in the next video, we're going to talk about how red uniforms and hiding behind trees impacted the outcome of the Revolutionary War. Or let's say you've got the topic of cell biology. You might say, is it really true that the human body replaces itself every 7 years? Watch the next video to find out. So this third tip is to use a script. Now, people think I'm crazy for this suggestion, but before you scoff, let me make a case for a script, or at least a very extensive outline. Most of us are not trained speakers, which means we tend to engage in frequent verbal fillers, ending sentences with right and or repeating a word or phrase while we figure out what we want to say next. So then I said, so I said, and that just happens because our brain is busy processing, and we, the speaker, usually don't even notice we're doing it, but your listeners are noticing. Because audio is not the preferred modality for most of us, humans are by nature very visual. Any kind of auditory distraction like that can disrupt cognitive processing and make it that much harder for the listener to absorb the meaning of what you're saying. A script or a very extensive outline will alleviate that potential pitfall. Plus, it will help you keep the content short and focused because you know what you're going to be saying. When you read it using a script, the key is to not sound like you're reading it. So practice a little bit before you record. Many people unconsciously have a different style of speaking when reading than they do when speaking conversationally. You can tell by the pacing and the way they're pronouncing words that they're reading. It's often kind of sing-song and formal. I had an instructor who, bless her heart, took the time to create short weekly video lectures. She even took the time to write out a script, and her videos were seriously marred by her narration style. It would literally sound like this. Practice a bit with your script before recording and have fun with it. Sure, you are a respected, and it went on like that. And it was just very difficult to listen to. I'll let you in on a little secret. I pretty much always use a script. In fact, I have been using a script this whole time. My colleagues like to joke that I even script my Q&As. Just the way it is. So I want to allay any concerns that I'm saying you have to be robotically perfect with your videos. Au contraire, my little friends. Students actually feel a connection when they see you as a real person and when they hear you seemingly talking right to them. Now, I say seemingly because you don't literally have to speak directly to them. What I mean is your style is humanized and conversational, not stilted and formal. Little unexpected things make you come across as human and approachable, which makes your content more approachable as well. I don't sweat it when my cat decides to walk across my desk on camera. Some of you may have seen her before we started the video. Or maybe I'll think of a different word or a little phrase that I want to use instead of what's written in my script. And I even may occasionally pause or say, That's fine. The script is really more about keeping you focused and avoiding those verbal bad habits. It's not about perfection. Speak enthusiastically, include natural pauses, and fluctuate your tone. You might think you need to speak slowly to ensure students are grasping important ideas. But studies actually show that slightly increasing the pace tends to foster engagement. This doesn't mean you should talk as fast as you can throughout the whole video. It just means speak normally, include pauses at appropriate places so your listener can process what was just said. If it's a complex explanation, rather than slow yourself down, you could just simply remind students they can pause the video and rewatch that part again. Remember, the brain likes to take directions. A nifty little bonus is that your script can play double duty as your captions. They already have proper punctuation, capitalization, word matching, so no editing is needed. If you use YouTube, you just upload the video, or ScreencastOMatic, or wherever you have it, you just give it your script, and there you go. Okay, I see things coming in chat, and will tell you at the end, I will address those. I just can't do both, otherwise I get too sidetracked. So I am purposely ignoring you, but we'll get to it. Okay, tip 4, be aware of cognitive overload. Cognitive overload happens when our working memory receives more information than it can handle comfortably. Extraneous details, confusing directions, overly complicated visuals all mean that your students' brains are going to be distracted and have less ability to focus on your content. And this is true in all learning contexts, not just video presentations. Keep any written text that's part of the presentation to a bare minimum. You notice it with my slides, I include a mostly relevant image, and when text is used, it's a concise summary of the point I'm making. So you can get rid of 95% of the written context on the screen and go with relevant titles, subtitles, keywords, or even better, images that reinforce your content. If you do have text on the screen, do not read it word for word. I'm going to say that again because so many people break this rule. If you have text on the screen, do not read it word for word. There's actually brain science behind this. Reading and listening involve different regions of the brain. So when you hear me speaking the same words you're reading, usually at a different pace, it creates a kind of dissonance in your brain, which disrupts comprehension. An exception might be if you're using a short quote, but honestly, unless you're certain that your audience doesn't read, there's really no point in reading the text on the screen. They're going to do that for themselves. Your job is to present your topic well and use strong visuals that underscore what you're saying. So you want to choose your visuals purposefully. Think of distinctive and compelling ways to illustrate a key concept or idea, instead of the requisite image of a handshake to demonstrate the idea of partnership. Use tango dancers or peanut butter and jelly. You also want to make friends with white space. An overcrowded screen is going to cause confusion. A clean layout and effectively using space around the images and text actually focuses attention and improves comprehension and gives the brain some breathing space. That whole idea of cognitive overload again. If you have a lot of information to share, do it over multiple slides or screens. And if you're doing a screencast demo, how to navigate Canvas, for instance, don't assume that they know what it is you want them to be looking at. Use arrows and boxes to focus your students' attention on the right thing. Okay, I think we're on our last tip. Learn a few basics. You don't have to become a trained graphic designer to create presentations and do your videos, but a few basics like what we've been talking about are going to increase the watchability of your videos. If you are interested in some basics, I highly recommend the Non-Designer's Design Book by Robin Williams. No, not that Robin Williams. She has a very engaging style of writing. She has lots and lots of examples and some very fun practice activities. I found it very worthwhile. I am not a great graphic designer, but I learned some very useful things about layout and font and all kinds of stuff. And it just might be useful. So short, focused, relevant, visually clean. Those are what are going to make your instructional videos engaging and effective learning tools. The recording of today's webinar is going to be archived in the webinar playlist of @ONE's YouTube channel. So let me put that in the link chat just in case. I mean, you've already seen the real thing, so I don't know that you need the recording, but people often ask. So I've just put that link in the chat. Let me go back and see if there's questions I missed. Felicia, I don't include the PowerPoint because I follow my own set of directions, which is to not include a lot of text. So the visuals themselves aren't really going to make much sense. As I said, the video will be available archived on the playlist, and that'll be much more useful to you than the PowerPoint. So I'm not a big fan of standalone PowerPoints. Scripts are the life in the land of closed captioning. Yes, Megan. I'm a big script person, as you may have gathered. For Q&A time. Okay, Tricia, when you say that Canvas and ScreencastOMatic need the same credentials, yes. When I say login credentials, I mean the username and password. That's what we're talking about. I'm not familiar with Doceri, Ruth, is that how you pronounce it? But sounds like a great resource that you suggested. Thank you. Also, in terms of that, for those of you that use Word, Microsoft has just added a, what do they call it? It's like a little microphone icon. I can't remember what they call it, but it's speech to text. So I can actually be recording my thing and have turned on the little caption. It's not captioning, but whatever Microsoft calls it, and it'll be recording me. And I still have to go in and clean up the punctuation and some of the word matching is off and stuff, but it's actually fairly accurate and it doesn't take as much as handwriting out the whole thing. So if you're more of an outline doer than a script writer, you can use that as a way of getting your final caption script. Okay, Mary, a follow-up to Trish's question. When you, sorry, I'm blathering. In terms of using the LTI in Canvas, when you go to embed it, it will ask you. So you'll see, just like when you go to any website or wherever they want your login credentials, you'll see a little dialog box and it'll be very clear. It's not a mystery or anything like that. And okay, great. It's free for iPad. Okay, great. Thanks. So we've got plenty of time, but I want to make sure you get all your questions answered. So any other questions? And then I want to move on to any other resources or things. Okay, Betty. So software program do you recommend for asking knowledge questions in a video? Currently, we all have Studio available to us. And one of the perks of Studio is that it allows you to embed those knowledge check questions into the video. Actually, it's more a layer on top of it. Excuse me. So that's one way to do it. There are a lot of other programs. I think Nomia might be one. They changed their name recently and I forget what they're called now. There are ones, they do all have a cost. So for right now, you might want to go with Studio. Okay, Megan, Play Pause It is another one. Yes, I forgot about them. Camtasia, you can do it too. So depending on what you have access to, what you may have licensed to with your college, some of those may be great, or you can always use Studio. The one thing to be aware of with Studio, it's currently funded through the fiscal year of 2022. So you'll have it for a little over another year. At that point, we don't know whether it's going to continue to be part of our Canvas suite. We hope it will, but just be aware. But you got it for now, and you could just give it a shot. That's one last thing before, and then Lawrence will get to your question. Start small. Allow yourself to just do a little bit. So maybe just start with a welcome video for your course next term. Don't feel like you have to go in and turn everything into video. Just start small. Give yourself a chance to get used to it. Find what works for you. Find the tools that work for you. And then you can really start to go whole hog if you enjoy this. It really does create a very humanizing aspect. Not all students need that, but there are a number of our students who that makes all the difference in their ability to stay engaged and feel connected to a course, is the level of connection they feel with you and with their other students. And voice and visuals really make a difference. Okay, Lawrence, which college? Oh, it wasn't sponsored by a college. It's from the CVC and @ONE, which is the, we serve the whole system. So California Virtual Campus, it's the online education initiative aspect of it. Hopefully that answered your question. And Ruth, yes, you can save your videos as MP4 files. Great, Lawrence, good, glad. Okay, anybody want to unmute, ask a question? I feel like I'm doing all the talking. How did I get the transcript to show at the bottom? I assume you mean in Zoom, or did you mean in when I showed the video? Mahara, you can unmute or put in chat.
In Zoom, I know, in your presentation, I see how it's showing up.
Yes, that's a Zoom thing. So when you go to when you're the host of a Zoom call, they now have auto transcripts and they're surprisingly accurate. If somebody is, oh, that's another thing, speak clearly and enunciate when you're doing your stuff. But it's only available when you're the host. It'll be one of the options in the more options area. And Lori, can I provide a bit more info on how to set up the voice to caption through Microsoft? Well, let's go look. Do I have Microsoft open? Let me do this. Okay, so I am here, and are you still seeing my screen? Okay, good. So it's the dictate. I don't know why I forgot that word, dictate. So when I click it and then I start talking, it tells me it's listening and it starts writing down what I'm doing. And if I pause properly and I enunciate clearly, it does what I need it to do. Once I stop talking, it'll actually start putting, or as it gets farther along, it'll start putting in the punctuation. You can see it added the periods possibly where they need to be. As I said, you will still need to go do some cleanup, but it's a lot faster than hand typing from scratch the whole thing that you're saying. So pretty simple. One thing, you can't start it and then hop over to do whatever. You have to start your whatever and then start this. So it always misses the first few words of whatever you're saying. You'll just get used to it and you type them in. Hopefully that helped. What other questions or aspects do you want to explore a little bit more in depth? I believe I just save it for now. I save it as Julia's asking, do I save it as a particular file type? Captions are a particular file type. That file type is not supported in Word. So I just save it as plain text. And then I will go and I can't remember what the name is, but if you Google convert plain text to VTT or SRT, those are the two caption file types. There might be a third, but it's VTT, I don't remember what it stands for, and SRT, don't remember what it stands for. But if you just Google how to convert a plain text to one of those, then I'm sure all kinds of stuff will come up. But that's what I do, is first save it as plain text in Word and then convert it to the file type. And then I can just upload it into YouTube or wherever. Studio has also been doing a better job initially there, because they will caption for you. You can record the video or upload it and then request captioning. Initially, it wasn't so great, but it has gotten better. So it will be similar to doing this. I thought I stopped you. Okay, there we go. It will be similar to the dictation in Word, but it'll be in Studio and it will already be in caption form. It's a little bit limited. You can't move things around as much as you might like to make them match the screen, because the timing is preset and it's not easy to change the timing of the segments, but you can go in and fix the capitalization and word match and just be done with it. So that's something else about Studio that's kind of good. All right, what other questions do you have? I'm going to take a sip of water while you think.
Helen, do you have any specific microphone recommendations that you think are worth the investment, perform better than others, stuff like that?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I really haven't invested much. I know when let me see if I can find it. Okay. So a long time ago, when I had a PC, I used Logitech, and it's like 25 bucks. It's probably up to 30 or 35 by now, but it's just a very simple microphone and it was quite serviceable, and you can get it, you can arrange it and all of that. I don't want to encourage you to go out and spend a lot of money. So I would, if you have a built-in microphone on whatever computer system you have, start there and see how the sound quality is, and maybe ask a couple of people to listen as well and give you their opinion about the sound quality. That's one. The other one, when I started doing the bite-sized canvas, I got some recommendations that I should improve the sound quality. So I invested in one of those blue snowball things that are, again, it wasn't really expensive, but it was definitely more than the $25 Logitech. So this I know is a very popular one. I think it's Blue, I believe, is the brand. But if you did snowball microphone, you'll see it'll come up if you do that as a Google search.
Thank you so much. I've seen a lot of your bite-sized Canvas videos and I love them.
You're very kind. Thank you. Okay, anything else we want to talk about? Well, around videos, anything else we want to talk about today? Other questions? Does the CVC have a repository of licensed figures or pictures that we can use? The CVC does not. If you're using Canva, they do, as I mentioned. There are also, and I don't remember where it is, so I'm not going to be able to give you those resources now. But if you were to Google, what would we call it? Creative Commons images or openly licensed, or some kind of search term like that. I know there are sites that have things. What's the one, not Flickr, the one we have now? Unsplash. Unsplash has some very beautiful photographs and things. So that's one. Thank you, Rebecca. You reminded me at the same time I remembered. So Unsplash is a great one to use. And then, as I said, you could do a search and see if there are others, if you have more specific types of photographs you need. Pixabay is a good one. Okay, great. So there are a number of them out there. You just kind of want to make sure you are being careful about whether something is actually openly licensed or not, because we don't want to model for our students that we're stealing content. So just kind of be thinking about that. Any success stories? Anyone that's already using video that wants to share a little bit about how you got started, or you know, any kind of success to motivate those that are maybe just about to dip their toe in the water?
I'd like to share.
Yes, go right ahead.
I teach non-credit, and most of the time there is some type of a language barrier, and it's difficult for them to read. So I started by, they don't know what to do because I do Zoom live, and most of the time they don't know how to join the class. So there's always some type of an email. So what I did is that my homepage on Canvas is a welcome video. And I tell them, congratulations, you just made it to Canvas. So you just got here. And now look on your left, click on the Zoom, click on the join, and I will see you. And then they pop in on the screen. So I started that way. And then for my credit courses, I realized that people don't read again. So I do all of my announcements in a video form. So I'm using Studio to do the announcement. So instead of writing something, I just tell them, okay, so do the assignment, and if something's going wrong, just shoot me an email, I will look into it, and give them a little bit more detail. And I realized that they're watching the video rather than reading. So
yeah, you may consider doing both, only because I know, despite having just done this webinar, I hate watching instructional videos. I would much rather read. I would always rather read, unless somebody is really great at presenting. And in terms of universal design for learning, it's just enough for anybody. I'm not saying, Maral, you have to do, just saying it's nice to have the video and also maybe a bulleted list of the key points or something for those that may, especially if your video is more than, you know, a minute, a couple of minutes, they may not get to the really crucial thing that you say right at the end of the video because they gave up watching. So just be thinking in terms of how can I make sure everybody's going to get this information. Video is fabulous, as you just found out, Maral, for people that maybe reading is not going to be the best method. So just be thinking for your own audience, how can you make sure you're kind of covering all bases? Great, thank you for sharing that. Any other success stories?
Helen, I have a question actually,
Yes,
if you don't
you
mind.
may ask.
So I love how instructors do these videos where they show themselves in the video, you know, just talking to the students, but then all of a sudden they go to explain something on a page in Canvas and the page actually comes up. You did that earlier in this presentation. I don't know how to do that. And I would love to know how to do that.
Well, it depends on what platform you're using. If you're using ScreencastOMatic, and Studio is based on ScreencastOMatic, so it may give you the same capability, but
yeah, it does.
Because I have a ScreencastOMatic account, I don't ever record in Studio. I always record in ScreencastOMatic, but it has the ability that allows you to choose whether you're seeing the person or this desktop or both, so that it's the desktop with the person in the upper, you know, wherever you put the little video within a video camera, you can put it in different places, but you can just pause. So let's say I started with just me. I pause my ScreencastOMatic recording. I switch the format of what I want showing on the screen, and then I start the recording again. And that's how it looks like they're doing it seamlessly, because they kind of are, because the thing's doing it for them. But it depends on if you're using something other than that. So if you're using Camtasia, for example, when I'm doing the bite size, I record separate things. I put them all in Camtasia, and then I have a transition, make it look like it's going seamlessly from one splice to the other splice, if that makes sense. So
Okay.
I don't have a definitive answer, just because it depends on what platform you're in. I
Gotcha.
will say Google is my best friend. So whenever I'm learning any kind of tool, I may, if they have their tutorials, but I also Google everything. So if you're using some tool and you want to say, how do I show myself and then switch to the desktop? Somebody's going to have created a tutorial on that will probably help you.
What? You haven't done it?
I have not. No.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't know if that fully answered your question, but hopefully it gave you a place to start.
Yes, because I've just seen it done. I thought there was some magic button I can just push in Canvas or something.
No, it just depends on the recording equipment you're using.
A little more tricky. Okay.
And Colleen, okay, so you're talking about that still, great. And Michelle, one of my students suggested putting a fun thing each week at the end of the video. That's a great idea too. That would be kind of dangling that carrot that I mentioned, where it's not really a teaser, but it's something that creates engagement and gets them motivated to watch the whole thing. Nice idea. Well, I don't want to just keep you here just for the sake of keeping you here. So let me ask one more time, any other questions that people would like to ask? Any other tidbits or resources anyone would like to share? Okay, well, it has been delightful to spend the last 47 minutes with you. I appreciate that you took time to come, and I will look forward to seeing you another time. Bye-bye.